Hey, welcome. Stay a while and listen, because I am going to have a longer video where I just need to complain a bit about conservatives and Christianity. There is no such thing as a conservative Christian. I frankly don't know how this isn't a more obvious position. At every step of the way, conservative ideology has failed to show any Christian values, and the reason it's going to have to be a longer video is because we're going to have to explain what the heck conservatism even is, which means basically explaining the whole of politics before we can explain basic ass religion. So let's talk about right wing and left wing, where those terms come from and what they mean. Um, in the French Revolution, the king, right before the French Revolution kicked off, the king thought it would be a good move to try and demonstrate to the people that nobody wanted democracy. So he had a referendum. They had a big meeting, got everybody their stuff together, and had put it to a vote. Do you want to topple the monarchy and have a constitution, or do you want to keep things the way they are? And the votes were divided as thus: the king got a vote; he voted for monarchy. The entire aristocracy got a vote, and they voted for the king. The entire clergy got a vote, and they voted for the king. The entire rest of France got a vote. There was 4 votes. 85% of the people got 1, 15% of it got 2, one man got 25% of the vote. Naturally, the people were not satisfied, and the French Revolution was sure to follow. What's important to the story is that the king had everyone indicate which side they were on by sitting for constitution to his left or for monarchy to his right. This is literally where the terms right wing and left wing come from. Is the first time anybody voted down democracy. So right wing literally means anti-democracy. A lot of right wingers have tried to paint it as something else. This has never been the case, and it is demonstrable from the way they vote. You can even to this day hear Republicans talking about how they don't believe in democracy anymore. Like, yeah, well, anymore? You never did. That's what being a right winger is always about. The most concise way to put the terms right wing and left wing would be authoritarian and egalitarian, because we're obviously not talking about directly democracy all the time. We're talking about with the consensus of the people or with the consensus of an authority. Authoritarianism or egalitarianism. The whole idea of being a left winger and being a Christian is that you're an egalitarian. You believe that everyone is equal in the eyes of God or the law. So when they say things like they're for the free market, I'm sure that the overwhelming majority of them don't actually know what that means. In my experience, when you ask a right winger what is the free market, they generally say a market between free peoples, which it is not. That's just so depressing every time. It's market free of regulation from the government. And regulations are, of course, good and important for the same reason that checks and balances in the government are good or important to keep people from having too much power. Of course, regulations are terribly important because they include things like OSHA, slavery, and child labor laws. So when people say they want the free market, are you saying that you're in favor of slavery, or do you not know that what you're saying is that you're in favor of slavery? Ignorant or fascist? Always the question with the right winger. Ignorant or fascist? You never know. Assume assume the worst. Um, which I guess actually I don't know. I don't really know which is worse. Being ignorant is as bad as being a fascist in practice when a fascist can rope you in, which they can and do. How do you think furries end up as Nazis? That's that doesn't even make any sense. So, supporting unchecked power for the rich, the free market, is obviously not a Christian thing. And it's mind-blowing to me how much the Bible and the Gospels specifically, talk about wealth. It is pretty much what Jesus talks about. He talks about God, heaven, himself, and money and poverty. Money and poverty, God and heaven, and the J-Man himself. All he talked about the whole time. Literally. Find me a thing in there that isn't about God and heaven or money and poverty. And it has such good one-liners like money is the root of all evil. Boom, what a line. Put that on a bumper sticker. You cannot have two masters. You cannot love both God and money. Like, weep now, you rich. Like, I don't know how this the Bible clearly is not a huge fan of moneyed interest, and you can see this most clearly with the parable of the young rich man. It blows my mind that the camel, the it's easier for the camel to pass the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. We've been arguing about that one for 500 years, as if that mattered. That doesn't matter. If it's a cable or a camel, if it's actually a gate. Because what they're saying is, no, 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 no. Rich people don't automatically not go to heaven. It's just extremely difficult for them to go to heaven. Oh, it's just extremely difficult for them to go to heaven. Okay, sure, fine, fine. You can have that one. Fine. You're right. They what he's actually saying is that it's as hard as pulling a cable through a gate in Jerusalem that no one has ever seen or found or written of before or since. Sure, because the point is that it's still harder because it's unethical, because it's wrong, because it's against God. If sharing is caring, what is being rich? Oh, maybe it's not caring about who? Oh, God's children? Your fellow humans? Who else would it be that you wouldn't care about? Wow, this is rocket science. I can't figure this out. We argue so much about this camel's eye quote when just a minute beforehand, Jesus doesn't use a metaphor. We're arguing about this metaphor right before that. Go ahead. Don't take it from me. Go ahead and read the parable of the young rich man. And then every time someone tries to tell you about how they're a conservative and they're a Christian and blah de blah de blah, ask them, what did Jesus say to the young rich man? Did he? What did Jesus say to the young rich man? His answer is, give up all of your possessions. And the answer to the question, what can I do to be a Christian? What can I do to be a follower of Christ? Because, of course, the word Christian didn't exist when Christ was alive, which he never was because it's a story. I want to pull this band-aid off right now. Also, while I'm at it, it's a story. Jesus is co-opted from, there was a lot of messiahs back then, because the republic had fallen and there was an empire and it was bad and people didn't like it and they were rejecting the state religion, which didn't make any sense anymore, and now it was being used to abuse them and it was wacky. So things like the cult of Isis, which is basically Christianity with an Egyptian theme, and Christianity and any number of other cults cropped up and got crushed. There's a lot of messiahs crucified around that time. Doesn't need to have been a man named Jesus walking the earth for the stories to matter any more than Frodo needs to have been a real person for the Lord of the Rings to be a good frickin' story, which, by the way, is good. It's a good one. Besides which, this man spent all this time, this famous pacifist attacked the guy for profiteering, attacked the merchant for usury, for profiteering off of exchange rates, which, like, well, that's what a low bar. In the modern, he was profiteering off exchange rates, and that was bad enough that Jesus, the famous pacifist who will turn the other cheek, came at him with a bullwhip. A bullwhip is not a weapon, it's a torture implement. Like, boy, are you profiteering all up in my church? Well, you better not. What do you call it, like a televangelist at that point? Like, are you kidding me? Golden calf, where it's a freaking golden cow. I genuinely have no idea how they manage to like just ignore the whole gospels, but then they'll march in the street. They'll march in the street for years about the serious anal sex issue, as told by Saul the necromancer, Saul the original fair weather Christian, because of course he's not Paul, because Republicans don't believe in reinventing themselves and changing their names. Paul, the guy who wasn't vetted by Jesus. We're going to take one line he said about how the Romans were shamefully sexy with each other and interpret that to mean that we should march in the street for 10 years about the crucial matter of the sex that other people are having with each other, whilst the economy collapses thanks to our authoritarian economic principles. Reagan, who basically is directly responsible for the economic crisis in America today. Thank you, and of course everybody who voted for him. Let's talk about the sex other people are having. That's way more important than the housing crisis we have directly caused by our incredible ineptitude and bad Christian behavior. Like let's go over a list of conservative issues and go over how they are not Christian at all. They are anti-Christian. My favorite is abortion. Do you know where that is in the Bible? Well, maybe in the Old Testament, but we're not ancient Israelites. No one's an ancient Israelite. The Jews don't follow those rules anymore. No one follows those rules anymore. You're not a Christian if you demand the people are following those rules. That's not a Christian thing. Jesus fulfilled the covenant with Abraham. That's so in the book. It's fine. You don't need to worry about polycotton blends and all sorts of shit. You can go ahead and have a period on a sheet and not burn it, and that is fine. Bible says that is fine. That checks out. So all of the trash from Old Testament doesn't matter. But if we were counting Old Testament, there's the bit where like Moses gets a girl an abortion and whatnot. So, the Old Testament actually has like a whole mixed message, like a lot of things. It mostly is approving of abortion, but that's not the point. The point is that we're in Christianity, in the Gospels, and the New Testament, it doesn't say anything at all about abortion. That's it's not a Christian issue. So, saying it's a Christian issue, it's actually blasphemy. It would be blasphemy to mischaracterize the Word of God. Um, being uh, pro abortion or being pro fucking birther, pro birth is is heathenistic, is sacrilegious, is blasphemy. That's blasphemous. To claim that that is a religious position, that's the only position they can ever take, is a religious one. Um, and it's not. That's not. And it's against the religion to say that something is in the religion when it's not in the religion. That's not okay. So that's actually sacrilege. That's heathens doing sacrilege. Is the birthers, the forced birthers. The gay rights thing, of course. This everyone is equal in the eyes of God, but let's march in the street about one line from fucking Saul the necromancer. Uh, God, I don't buy that for a minute. Are you kidding me? Just condemning people from because of the way they were born. No, no, it's no, no. Other conservative issues, including, of course, hating immigrants, which, no, no, do I need to do, everyone is equal in the eyes of God. Do I need to do we really want to same argument, same thing, egalitarianism. I don't know how hard this is for you people. This is the thing. It fundamentally relies on an incredible amount of ignorance on the part of the Republican voters and anyone who claims to be a conservative, who then call themselves a Christian and say that conservative values are Christian values. Like, have you read the thing? It's not. No. The Gospels have such a radical leftist agenda. It is embarrassing. To say otherwise is to admit that you have zero reading comprehension. It is not. The Gospels are based as fuck. Jesus tells everybody that the Federal Reserve is fake. like 2,000 years before the Federal Reserve existed without even actually being a real person. That's pretty incredible. Incredible. A bunch of quick reminder, leading theory, good, a solid theory, with a lot of evidence to back it, is that Christianity was formed out of mushroom cults, people who found ancient Jewish religious texts, or whether otherwise the ones who were holding on to them in the first place, and were like, oh, this stuff is about psychology, and they rewrote it to suit the modern era and like co-opted it, like when somebody, tells the story of Jesus, but with Emily, do you hate the authoritarians too? Uh, anyway, yeah, the give unto Caesar what is Caesar's thing. He's talking about how Caesar is on the coin, about how it belongs to Caesar. He's talking about how the if you look on your money, it says Federal Reserve note. You don't own the money. The Federal Reserve owns the money. You have been given it. You are holding on to it to show that they have your value. They have your wealth. You have a note. You have an IOU. That's why Jesus says, go ahead and give Caesar his coins back because they're his in the first place. They were never yours. This is woke fucking based shit. And it's, come on. And you're going to go ahead and back Ronald frickin' Reagan. Not to mention, like, any amount of bigotry should be a deal breaker for a Christian. Like, you should see that the KKK are voting for the same way and be like, no, we need to go kill the KKK. That's absurd. I'm not going to have them be here. No, you should be asking yourself some serious questions. You should want to fight every racist. They are abusing children of God. Of course, every supremacist ideology is born out of insecurity, so it's impossible to, people are just using religion as an excuse for the supremacist ideology. And anytime anyone tells you that they're a conservative Christian, you need to ask them, what did Jesus say to the young rich man? And then just fucking call them a hypocrite and a heathen if they can't answer. And if they do answer, be like, no, 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 no. Jesus was like, tell me about rings of power. What's that? Jesus, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Just say Republican rhetoric to them. Point out to them that conservative values are unbelievably hedonistic and authoritarian. And I can't even anymore with this religious superiority. Loving God and other people doesn't, and God's children, and believing in the faith, the good that comes is not about anal sex. It has nothing to do with anal sex. It's a completely unrelated issue. It's not. If the one way it might pertain to anal sex is be like, all right, because love. I go to the gay pride and I see the bigots on the corner screaming about their terrible ass interpretation of religion, and I look down the street and I say the cult of Satanists, and I realize that people are going to learn more about Jesus through them. Conservatives are not only not Christian, they are one of the biggest enemies of the religion. If you are a Christian, you believe in Christian values, you should be marching in the street about conservatives and how they are blasphemers. Yeah, you tell them, Emily. Emily's ready to march.